All right, and welcome to another Sketchy Saturday where, much like a gathering of juggalos, we have a gathering of artists here to cause a little bit of chaos. So we're going to go around the room and everyone introduce yourselves. Allison, go ahead.
What's a juggalo?
What's a juggalo? Oh, you have to know ICP.
Oh, I see. I know what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right then. Well, I'm Allison McClone. I'm the Alley Cat, and I draw stuff. Today we'll be working on the next X-Men from my X-Men 97 kick, where we did Wolverine and Gambit already. Today we're doing Jubilee. I'm going to be working on the Sword and Sorcery book, Broken Shackles, for Sword and Sorcery magazine coming out. And yeah, that's basically the fun stuff. Check me out, Arting with the Alley Cat, Fridays, 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
All right. And first time on here, welcome, Grant Lankard.
Hey, guys. Yeah, my name is Grant Lankard. I am an artist and writer. I just finished the miniseries Beowulf. I also do the horror anthology, Memoirs of the Morbid. And my new comic book is called League of Cryptids. Issue 1 is at the printer right now. The trade paperback for Beowulf should be out in July. And I'm going to be working on a page from the prequel to Beowulf while we talk.
All right. And I'm working on also the second issue of Magi's Grace, which I'll probably end up doing for the next few Saturdays. So Grant, now that you finished the Beowulf miniseries, does it feel fulfilling to have finished the series? You don't talk to too many people in the indie comic community that's finished the series.
Yeah, it's very rewarding when you see all 6 issues laid out. And I think from what I've seen, I think it helps when you're going to conventions and stuff to have all 6 issues there, because people don't necessarily want to buy a story that they don't know whether or not it's going to end or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I've only done a couple conventions since finishing, but it feels like it's helped.
Right. Morning, Art Victor. Morning, Frank. Yeah, I guess, yeah, that way people don't pick up something and think, oh, I don't even know if this is ever going to get finished, or which does happen a lot. So.
Yeah, I know the other day on Nita's show, she was talking about how some people are saying now they're not gonna buy a book series until all of the books are out. So if you're trying to do like a trilogy and you only have book 1 out, people are saying like, we're gonna wait until you have all 3 books out, because as indie creators, we don't know if that's really gonna happen.
They're gonna finish it or anything like that. So yeah.
I mean, I have to admit, I'm a trade paperback guy for multiple reasons. It's cheaper, it's easier, it looks nicer on a shelf. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm trying to reread something that I read like a year ago, I don't have to track down. I mean, I'm not very organized, so I like, I can just find this particular, I just need to find everything all in one spot. You know what I mean?
Right. There's very few things that I get that are made up of several issues. I do try to collect the Age of Apocalypse run, but that's about really it. So what do y'all think? Is the floppy dying like they say, or
So
go ahead.
my opinion is still do floppies, but just know that you're probably going to make the majority of your money on the trade paperback. And the reason why I say that is, okay, so let's say the storyline is 6 issues, and I don't know, you can do 2 issues per year. I mean, how many people want to wait 3 years to start getting, paid for the work they're doing? You know what I mean? So for me personally, I like the floppy, but I just keep in the back of my mind, most people are gonna wait for the trade paperback. At least that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that there are people who are gonna wait for the trade paperback, because if not, this Kickstarter is gonna crash and burn. But I don't.
Oh, I doubt that. I doubt that. You do pretty well.
Yeah, I've been doing pretty well with both Beowulf and League of Cryptids. Memoirs of the Morbid is a little bit harder of a sell, but that's okay. I enjoy doing it. So
yeah, that's what it boils down to at the end of the day, right? At least you have some hard work you can look back on. Exactly. What do you think, Allison? Is how are floppies faring now?
Well, I mean, I still buy them, and enjoy them. I like holding floppies in my hands. I will admit it's easier to read a trade, but because you get everything right there. But there's something about the floppy that I just find enjoyable. So, it's kind of my feeling that the nostalgic.
Right. Yeah.
And it reminds me of my childhood when I used to go into the, into the local store and grab them when they sold them there in the local convenience store. I'm old.
I know what you mean. Spinner racks.
Yep.
Yeah.
So another reason that I like floppies is I think at conventions floppies do a lot better.
That's true.
I mean, I don't know about you, but when I walk up to a table and maybe I've never heard of this artist and writer before, so I don't always want to shell out $20 for something that who knows if it's going to be any good or not. I would rather spend $5 and get a sample. Yeah.
No, I feel the same way with a lot of things. I'd rather buy the floppy rather than a trade right off the bat, unless like the art just blows me away or something like that. Because I can forgive a lot for damn good art.
Yeah. There's people have made their careers off of that.
Yep. There are a lot of people. Most of them have a little eye logo in their name.
I wasn't going to say it, but yeah. Agreed. Yeah, it's kind of, I guess the floppy now is almost like an ash can in a way.
Yeah,
really
the ash can for the trade.
Yeah.
What program are you using? See?
Oh, Clip Studio Paint.
Clip Studio,
yeah.
People have told me that I need to switch to that, but
I think at the end of the day, it's about what you're comfortable with, really.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well,
you don't need to switch to it unless you're looking for something cheaper.
People have told me that it's better than Photoshop, but I need Photoshop. What's that?
It's a better drawing program than Photoshop because that's like what it was designed to do.
Right.
But I mean, if you're comfortable using Photoshop, use Photoshop.
I mean, so Well, the big thing is I personally don't like Adobe as a company. I think they're really greedy. I think
Oh yeah.
their prices aren't great. Um, I but
No.
um, well, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, I think I probably will end up moving to Clip Studio eventually. It's just a matter of when Adobe just becomes financially unsustainable for me.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Well,
basically what happened to me.
uh, yeah, and I don't know. I didn't really work with Adobe or any of the Photoshop stuff. This was the first program I dealt with, so I don't have any kind of I feel like a preference or anything else like that. But so I went with the cheaper program at the time, which was at that point in time it was Manga Studio. So and they changed it to
Yep.
Clip Studio. But so I went
Well,
with the cheaper
they
one.
went back to the original name actually.
It was
So
Clip Studio beforehand.
over in Japan, it was always Clip Studio, which I
That's
find
interesting.
amusing.
But yeah, I just kind of. Art Victim says, I'm speaking of floppies. I feel like it's Wolverine. Too tough to die, but it could diminish and go the way of the record. And records are still kicking as collectible and cult favorite.
That's true.
Yeah,
I don't see where that could be wrong. I mean, that sounds legit.
I agree with that. I just kind of, I'm curious though, is that, but what's going to happen is, if that's what we're talking about, is it going to go nostalgia bait? And it's going to be, yeah, it's going to thrive for people who remember the floppy, but not for others coming into the fold of comic dome, I guess.
So here's what I'm gonna say. People who like floppies can buy floppies, and people who don't like floppies don't have to buy them. So my opinion is that I don't really see what putting out floppies hurts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, for a writer, it makes sense because they have to make enough money to produce the next book or to continue the story.
Right.
If you're doing all of it as an artist, it might make sense for you financially to just go for the trade, financially and time wise.
I think I'm gonna start doing longer floppies, just because the more pages you try to pack into a floppy, you're saving money. And I mean, and with you know what I mean, like, you know, if you look at a 40-page comic book and a 20-page comic book, a 40-page comic book doesn't cost twice as much as a 20-page comic book, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
And I'm also thinking, you know, I mean, it takes the same amount of time to put a 40-page comic book in a Gemini mailer as it does a 20-page floppy.
Unless you're me.
Oh, really?
No, I'm joking.
Well, I mean,
well, I have issues with my hands when I try to do fine motor control. It's weird I can draw still, but yeah. Like reading a book, difficult for me.
huh.
I'm an exception, though.
Right. But you
Because
haven't
of
felt that it's
nerve.
affected your drawing yet?
No, actually, when I was in the hospital with all this, the neurologist saw that I was drawing, because I was in the hospital for a while, and had to relearn how to walk and stuff. And he basically said, keep drawing, it'll keep helping you get better at doing things. And I had some of my biggest improvements over the time frame since I was diagnosed with MS. Like I could dig up some of my older stuff and wow, I sucked. And it really wasn't that long ago. There's somebody out there saying, well, you suck now.
There's always a critic.
Yep.
The imaginary person in your head who's criticizing all of your art.
That's imaginary? Damn it. Maybe I should talk to somebody.
In most cases, that person is imaginary. I mean, sometimes they're real, but usually
When I was working for Verizon, we had headsets on and stuff like that a lot, just because it's easier to make phone calls out of the office and things. And I'm sitting there coding, and person next to me is like, "Why is my headset beeping?" And I'm just like, "Oh, it's the voices in your head just left you voicemail." And he's like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "The battery's close to dead. It's telling you."
Nothing worse than a square not getting the joke, man. Telling you.
Yep. Now the other person on my other side of the cubicle farm that we were in was laughing hysterically when I said that.
Yeah, for me, as far as like the floppy concern is, I guess I mostly get trades now. Now that I think about it, but I don't have a preference, honestly. But usually, what happens if I'm doing, let's see, if I'm following a book, I'll either if it's not enough to keep me going, I'll forget about it. And not that I dislike it, I just forget about it. Or, financially speaking, I don't have the money that month to spend on it. And by the time I do, now I've got to collect 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that's a monthly problem too. Versus, see, I figure floppies for Kickstarters and independents are a little bit harder than being in a store and selling it. And I know that sounds like a no duh, but what I mean is you still have to, because of the amount of time in between the floppies that you have in the independent circuits and Kickstarters and everything, you still have to stay within the public zeitgeist and really get them to know. Keep remembering you, the public eye, rather.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of stuff in comic books that we just.
Mikey.
I think there's a lot of. Sorry.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think there's a lot of stuff that we do in the comic book industry just because that's the way it's always been done, and it not all of it always makes sense. Like what I was just talking about, like 20 page issues. I just kind of had an epiphany last year where I was sitting there thinking, and I was thinking, well, who says that a comic book has, like a floppy issue has to be 20 pages? Or 20, I mean, I guess they're not all 20 pages, but they're usually 22, somewhere in there.
Or 16 with a bunch of ads if you're DC. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
And I realized the only reason why I was aiming for 20-page comic books was just because that's how it was when I was a kid.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And like I said, with the cost of printing just getting in my opinion, pretty ridiculous. I think, it just doesn't make sense to make 20-page comic books anymore, especially because the market is not really going to be. It's tough to make a profit with 20-page books. I'll put it that way.
Right. Well, and then but you have to take into consideration. Like, again, this goes back to, when you're an artist and the writer, making more than 20-something page books are it's kind of easy. It's not easy, but as far as financially is concerned. But when you're a writer trying to write and you're paying for pages, somebody to color them, somebody to pencil them, so on and so forth, I could see why you would want the page count significantly lower.
Yeah.
Even than that. The problem is if you're going to do that, you better be bringing the story. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
But again, like it's the conundrum between it's a different beast for people who are artist writers versus writers hiring artists.
There are advantages to both.
Yeah.
I mean, the advantage to being an artist / writer is that you don't have to pay an artist. The advantage to being a writer who has to hire artists is that gives you a lot more time to market your comic book.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to spend 6 or 7 hours every day drawing a comic book on top of your day job, on top of trying to market the comic book, that's a lot to unpack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
How is your comic book going, Allison?
It's going pretty good so far. I got approval to do it. Let's see. That's going to be the cover. I already have the trade dress done up in Clip Studio for it and everything. And some promotional art for it. So, but yeah, it's coming along. I have the first installment basically done up. It's about 7 pages. As I said, it'll be posted in a magazine, so I don't do 20 pages.
Forgive me if you already said this, but it looks like you're drawing Jubilee.
Yes, I'm drawing Jubilee right now. I'm glad you were able to identify it. It means I'm doing it well enough that people can tell who it is.
Well, X-Men's taking the comic community by storm right now, I see.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, that show it's like my favorite cartoon right now. And I'm so sad I now have to wait like probably a year to get the season 2. So.
Oh, is it finished? Did they finish it?
Yeah, they just finished season 1.
Oh, okay.
On Wednesday.
Yeah, I see a lot of people talking about it consistently in my feed and the memes. Oh my gosh, the memes.
Yep.
Art says, love those pieces, Ellie. Yes, I was going to call out Jubilee. I love her.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Jubilee is fun to draw. So it's like, I don't know, I always liked the Jubilee character. When I was like in her age in the comics, back in the 90s and stuff like that, I kind of identified a little bit with her. So,
I mean, she's a teenage girl who hangs out with Wolverine. That's about as cool as it gets, right?
Yeah. Well, Wolverine seems to have a collection of teenage girls that hang out with him, and strangers, not in a creepy way.
Right.
First it was Kitty Pryde, then it was Jubilee, and for some reason in the movie, they put Rogue.
They did Rogue.
Rogue was basically just
Jubilee, yeah.
And Shadowcat, but yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if they did that just because Rogue is like a more identifiable character. I don't know.
Probably. I think she's more. Well, Jubilee gets a lot of flack, right, because of the whole. It's not fireworks. Everyone keeps calling it fireworks, but it's
Well, that's what she calls them. But yeah,
what,
it's like plasma
blast or something. Yeah.
And they're actually very powerful. But I mean, she's a little kid, basically.
What is,
Hey,
it
nobody-
what is it that people don't like about Jubilee? They just don't feel like she's powerful enough?
Pretty much, they think that her power is useless.
Yeah, which the new X-Men series definitely shows it's not. So,
Well, that's good to hear.
I always wanted to write an X-Men comic book about all the mutants who have really useless superpowers. Because, like, you figure if this is a genetic mutation, then then the powers would be random, right? So there've got to be people out there who just have really useless superpowers, right? Like, I don't know, somebody who can make paint dry really quickly or something. I don't know.
one of my favorites was Cypher, who definitely did not have a combat power, but he could understand language.
So, right, Cypher was. I liked Cypher too. I know, like, I remember, like, the reason why they ended up killing him off, I think, was that the artists just felt like he got in the way. Like,
Oh, really?
Like, I guess the artists would complain, like, okay, we already have to draw like 10 or 12 characters per page, and then we have to throw in this other character who doesn't really fight or do anything interesting. But
I mean, he like merged with Warlock and became like a mecha suit and stuff. I thought that was great.
Right.
Oh, that does sound pretty cool.
I mean, it was that. I think another problem is that a lot of those Bill Sienkiewicz designs don't look right when they're not drawn by Bill Sienkiewicz.
Yeah, that I can definitely get that. Yeah,
we're talking about Warlock, right?
Yep, basically.
We're obviously talking about Warlock.
I loved Warlock. I was a huge fan of the New Mutants. I had every issue. Still do.
Well, I really thought there was something there for a while. There was speculation that 20th Century Fox that's how they were going to bring in the New Mutants, because with the New Mutants, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while, but the New Mutants kind of got started because the X-Men disappeared.
Yep.
And so it looked like they were going that way. Huh?
Disappeared, presumed dead.
Yeah. And so it was basically a new team. So everybody thought that was what they were going to do to link up the universes. That, however, this is before Marvel or Disney bought it.
Oh yeah, this is the 1980s. So yeah.
Oh no, I mean like this is I'm talking about in the movies when they were coming out with new. Mutants,
oh right. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because you had the Gift that was out.
Yep. I actually like that show.
Yeah, I haven't finished it, but I like the fact that the characters they brought in, like I always call them, and I know this is not right, so don't hold it against me. The Cuckoo Sisters.
It's not entirely off.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, they're inspired by a science fiction trope. So,
yeah.
The Three Cuckoos. Technically, there's 5 of them, but 2 of them died.
Yeah.
So I've never seen this TV show.
Oh, The Gifted?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's good?
It's fun.
Yeah, it's got Blink in it. And I think Warpath, too. Is it Warpath in it?
It's got Blink, It's got Warpath, and it's got one of my favorite characters, Polaris.
Yeah. That was
here.
Polaris, who was Magneto's daughter, really, I guess.
Yep.
And I guess Scarlet Witch is no longer Magneto's daughter.
Well, they haven't really come out and said anything like that. they don't show Wanda and Pietro's parents die. They're just presumed dead. So having them suddenly come out with, Magneto and in the movies and all that, I could see them doing that. And
Well, I was
having
under the
him be the
impression.
father.
I was under the impression that Scarlet Witch wasn't a mutant in the movies.
Nope, they've retconned her to a mutant.
Okay.
Yeah, they kind of did. In WandaVision, they did.
Yep.
They hinted at it. Yeah, much like they hinted at Miss Marvel being a mutant at the end of her series.
They're moving away from Inhumans and
there's so many cool Inhumans though.
There are, but they botched the television series and want to distance themselves as far as possible.
They should just retcon that. I mean,
they should. It was terrible. They should just ignore it, pretend it didn't happen. I mean, Black Bolt in the Doctor Strange movie. I thought
Doctor Strange, right? So you can't. You're not saying. I don't know. Maybe Deadpool will set everything right.
That's what
everybody's hoping for. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the problem with having like a shared universe, at least cinematically. Like, you make a mistake, and then it's like it's not quite as easy. I don't know. I mean, I feel like people in the comic book readers are more willing to just say, "Okay, yeah, that never happened."
Except for people like me who still bitch about things that happened in Inferno that don't make sense to the timeline. But hey.
Well, it doesn't. The adaptations aren't necessarily bad. We understand that you can't put everything in a movie or a TV show, what have you.
Oh, I meant the actual comic, but yeah.
Yeah, well, no, that too. But I'm just saying, like, as long as the story makes sense, is the deal.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Fox's Days of Future Past. I thought that was fun.
Oh yeah,
Jared's right. They did call them miracles originally. Clever way of saying mutant. I don't know, but hey.
Well, I wonder if they're not allowed to use the word mutant because
they weren't.
Yeah, they weren't.
Yeah, they completely weren't. So. Sorry, my hand's like blocking me. Draw Jubilee's hand.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what was it? For a long time they couldn't use scrolls because 20th Century Fox had a hold of the film rights to Scrolls and the Fantastic Four and everything.
What do you guys think of the whole? Like what you've seen of the new Fantastic Four movie?
I haven't really seen anything on it, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
I saw who they cast for the people, and I was like, yeah, sure, fine. I'm just happy they're going to be doing Galactus.
I think they are.
Yeah, so I'm just happy.
Oh, okay, yeah. Instead of a cloud, you mean?
Yes.
I'm not a Fantastic Four fan, so
I'm a Silver Surfer fan. So.
I do like Silver Surfer. I know people are upset by who they casted as Silver Surfer.
I could care less.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like Silver Surfer should be androgynous anyways. So
yeah, I kind of feel more like that myself.
So casting a woman to me is okay, but I don't know. People like to get worked up about stuff.
People just complain. They're not happy unless they're complaining.
I feel at the end of the day, it is fictional characters. It's
also like it's the movie verse. It's not the comic verse. It's the movie verse. So it's like it's different. There, I justified it. Move on. I want a perfectly, accurate, rendition of it. Let's read the comics.
Yeah.
I have the Galactus trilogy. I'm very happy with them. Actually, just about all the Fantastic Four issues I have feature Surfer and Galactus. And Hulk Sing fights.
Well, Silver Surfer has such a tragic story anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I as a kid, I just really liked the Silver Surfer because, I mean, a lot of times he was just traveling from planet to planet. So, like when you would pick up a new issue of Silver Surfer, you really had no idea what it was going to be about. It was, it was story possibilities were just infinite.
Yep. And Jared's right again. All I hear is the comic boon guy from The Simpsons telling you you're all wrong. Yep. Yeah, I can hear him saying that too. I can picture an old boyfriend of mine telling me the exact same thing. It's like, you're wrong. I'm like, no, I'm not.
All that matters at the end of the day. Go ahead.
I've been told by some people, one of the reasons he's not my boyfriend anymore is I was told I don't understand the medium.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're that serious about it, maybe you don't. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's storytelling. Jeez. Only thing I could say that would bug me is when it gets to, I don't care about the casting, but when it gets to when you change so much of a character's personality, is it even that character anymore? That's the only thing
I can get behind that. That makes sense. That you need to stay true to the character in other ways.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't just say, "Oh, here's Superman, and he has a Punisher personality." No, it doesn't work for me.
No, that doesn't work for me either.
Yeah.
I said I'm all for changing aspects of the characters, but like I don't really see the need to gender swap Wonder Woman. It just doesn't work for me. I mean, Wonder Guy already exists in Marvel, so it's fine. Or Wonder Man.
Wonder Man, which I think he's getting his own series.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when things like that, where it's like it. I mean, obviously with Wonder Woman, I mean, I don't think they ever would gender swap Wonder Woman.
No. Before it gets out there, I wouldn't care if it was a trans Wonder Woman. That'd be fine. Wouldn't care. I don't think they'd do that, but I wouldn't care. So.
Yeah, I don't think they would do that either. I would like to see a little bit more LGBT representation in the either the Marvel or the DC cinematic universes. But yeah, I don't. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to see him go ahead and do Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
You
got North Star right there. So
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You have that right there. So that adds to that without having to. You don't have to change a character for that. The characters are there. Just bring them out.
Yeah.
There was one guy in the Shazam movies who they seemed like they were setting up to be gay, but I don't think they're going to make a third Shazam movie because the second one wasn't very good.
I didn't even see the second one.
I didn't finish it.
So the first Shazam movie is actually one of my favorite superhero movies, but that's part of that's because I really loved Shazam. Was one of my favorite characters as a kid, and quite frankly, that miniseries that Jeff Johns and Gary Frank did an updated version of Shazam, and they basically did everything that I would have done if they gave me if DC just gave me the character Shazam and said you can do anything you want to with this character. Basically, Jeff Johns and Gary Frank did that. So,
Well, that's high praise.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
No, actually, I meant that. I'm sorry. That's high praise. That's like the. I wish I wrote the sequel trilogy for Star Wars. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I see Martha. Martha says sometimes they just throw a female into a movie as a boob infusion. For example, the reported lady in the Black Metal movie with Macaulay Culkin's brother. I guess that's one way to look at it. Just, I do. She's talking about that. What was it? Lords of Metal. Was it? I think it might have been.
Oh, I didn't see that, so I have no opinion.
Yeah. No. It's based on a true story and everything because they were freaking wicked in that scene in that music scene in the Netherlands, I think.
Yeah, I think I remember the trailers for it, and that's like about it. Like, I just remember seeing the trailers for it and going, "Oh, that looks interesting. I might watch it eventually." And then I completely forgot about it until it was just
they kind of, you saw a bunch of trailers and then it just kind of went Lords of Chaos. Yeah, thank you, Bartlett. Yeah, it just kind of died off. I ended up seeing it because I just happened upon it. Really, it's like, oh, I remember this because I remember the story when I was in, I think it was middle school, early high school, and they were talking about, it's the story of Mayhem. Basically, it's all sorts of rumors were around, like devil sacrifices, eating the brains of the drummer, all sorts of rumors and things like that. What's sad is some of that was true. Like
eating the brains of the drummer.
It was something to that effect. They didn't kill the drummer, but the drummer killed himself. And I think they discovered the drummer and didn't eat the whole brain. I don't think, but
that'd be a bad idea. But
yeah.
Then again, if you're thinking about eating a brain in general, you're probably not in your right mind anyway.
No, there's nothing stable there. They just wanted to see who was more evil.
Well,
it got really.
Everybody needs a hobby.
Yeah, right. I don't know what it did. So.
Everybody needs a puppy.
I would love a puppy. I have 2 kitties, though, so it's okay. I don't think they would love a puppy.
I have 1 cat, and he is a noisy cat. We're probably going to get him a friend for long.
I did that for Hobbs, and that's why I have Rocket. And Rocket's now the noisy cat, and Hobbs isn't as much as a noisy cat as he used to be.
Yeah. That's what we're hoping for.
We have 2 cats, and we've been going back and forth on getting a third.
I've thought about getting another cat. Then I realized I don't have the room or the money.
Yeah, I mean, they're not cheap. I won't lie to you.
No. No, not really.
Not as expensive as children, thankfully.
That's a good way to look at it.
Okay, so
but they're just collectible. I mean, you just can't help but collect the cats.
Yeah, let's talk to my partner in crime. What is it? Peter Palmiotti. He's always getting an extra cat or 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he collects strays, apparently.
Oh, man. He'd be overwhelmed down here.
Yeah, he's already overwhelmed in Kansas, too, so.
I'm sorry, Grant, what'd you say?
I didn't know that he was your partner in crime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we used to do a podcast together. He's a good friend. Matter of fact, he'd be on my show more if he had internet that worked.
I was gonna say, guys, I think it's been a while since either of you were on my show.
I'll happily come by.
Okay.
I'll like
I've been
drawing
doing
on
it solo lately just because I'm too lazy to book guests. But I figured I'd throw it out to you guys since I'm here anyways, and I think both of you guys did a good job on the show, so
Oh, thank you much, sir. I appreciate you. You can always
I
come
mean,
on mine too if you want.
I mean, not that there's a lot of pressure like for you to entertain the audience or anything, but I think on both occasions the audience was receptive to you guys.
No pressure. Be funny. And looks aren't everything.
Just some things. No, just
Exactly.
Although it does help if you look funny, and that's so you don't have to worry about being funny. But
Maybe? I'm not really
Let's
sure on
find out.
that one. Kind of jury's out. Need to step away for 1 sec. Be right back.
Yeah, I have to see if there's any room in my schedule. Right now, it's everything between this show and, golly, the other 2 shows I'm on.
But the only thing that's nice about my show is that you can draw while you're talking. So
So how long have you been doing it now? It's about a year now, huh?
yeah, I think almost exactly a year.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, you do shows, so you know what it's like. It can be not stressful, but it's just one more thing you kind of have to worry about every week, right?
Yeah, it's taxing. It can be very taxing. Getting everything right. In fact, I've already started setting up for Art Style Kamikaze tonight because, I do that. I have my daughter on with me for that one. And so I have a green screen for her and a different camera. It's like right across from me. So I just went ahead early on to try to set it up instead of waiting till later on tonight. And we go on about 10 o'clock at night. But but that one, see, like here and RSVP that I do with Chad on Thursday nights, I can get on here and I could draw it, just go. Thursday nights we talk about whatever comes to mind. We just go. We're not even trying to keep it a quote unquote comic show, even though that comes up. We just go. So
Comics, those things we sometimes talk about. Right.
sometimes talk about. But it's easier to do those to just come on and talk than having to set up what you have to do, what you're going to do, and what you're going to talk about and keep people engaged. Thursday nights are it's almost like being what we sound like on the phone to each other. So it's just have a regular conversation.
There's a bunch of geeks talking, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, there you go. There's nothing wrong with that.
So here's a question for you, C. It looks like your daughter wants to follow in her father's footsteps.
God help her.
Well, that's what I was trying to get at. I was wondering how you feel about that. If that makes you nervous. I mean, obviously, getting into comic books isn't the most financially lucrative field to get into. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it looks like she's doing really well.
Yeah.
So it must be. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm just projecting my own feelings, but for me, it would be it would be a combination of pride and apprehension.
Well, how can I put this? I'm not as far as I. To be honest with you, I don't know what she wants to do as far as her art is concerned. She's doing comic covers and things now and everything, but I'm not. I think she really actually wants to get into animation. So that's going to be her focus. And considering the boom in independent animation lately, I think that's that's a viable option.
Yeah, independent animation's really taking off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gotten so much easier to do it at home, and like it's not like nigh impossible to do anymore.
Right, exactly. I personally don't have the patience for it. So, but
I can respect that. I feel similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And trust me, I've tried.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day. I think that's what I wanted to years ago to do animation. I was really influenced by The Lion King and things like that. But it comes down to it was more of a storytelling point. And to me, I'd rather, if I was going to do animation, I'd want to do it all myself because I'm greedy that way, I guess.
Crazy.
And yeah,
I can respect that too.
That works. Yeah. So I can do it all myself if I do my own comic. So that's
right.
I think how that works out. But as far as like apprehensive, I think she has a better chance the earlier she starts with whatever she wants to do as far as art is concerned than waiting later on.
There's a kid I met back during COVID and all that, when I was hanging out with Jimmy Reyes a lot on his shows and things.
Oh yeah.
His name was Tomic. I can't remember his real name, but he posts under Tomic. And he was getting advice from like me, Jimmy, and some other people on there, and really wanted to know, how to be a comic artist and all that. Now, all these years later, I look at his stuff, and he's done things for IDW. It's just like, well, he's getting someplace. His turtle stuff that he did was amazing looking.
Oh wow!
Like, if I had his dedication when I was his age, damn.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to, really. It's sometimes it's not about talent that gets you ahead. It's really about determination and persistence.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, I look at my stuff, and it's like, in school, everybody's like, oh, she's the artist. She draws things, and that was it. Like, I was voted best artist in the senior superlatives or whatever. And I'm like, cool, and that's fine. Like, I look at his stuff, I'm like, well, he blew me away when I was his age.
Yeah. It's...
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's, I mean, I guess the reason why I would say that I would have mixed feelings on it is, so I have two stepkids, and my stepson, who's God, he's 22 now, but he was always really, really into computers, and not so much into the creative end of things. And it's really crazy because, like, literally straight out of high school, he's making way, way, way more money than I ever made, even with a college degree. So
Yeah.
So there's I don't know, I get, if I'm being perfectly honest, there's a little bit of jealousy and a little bit of anger at it. How do I word this? It makes it very obvious to me that we live in a society that does not respect creative fields, because really the only difference between me and him is that he chose to take, a more technical route, and I chose to take a more creative route. And literally, he's making like 3 times as much money as I was ever making, like with a high school diploma and not even a college degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it puts into sharp focus just how much easier it is to make money in a technical field. Now,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
Well, that's how I made all the money I used to have.
yeah, I'm jealous of people like you too, Allison, who have two different sides to them, like people who are able to do the technical side of things and also the creative side of things.
Yeah, I can blame my high school education for teaching me how to be a good student.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not particularly wild about the job I have, as far as the job I used to make a living.
Oh, I hated working for Verizon, but I made tons of money.
Are you talking about your day job, C?
Yeah, yeah. And the thing about it is what, and I could have gone and learned a trade or something else like that to earn the money. But I figured a long time ago, am I just going to go learn a trade to do something that I don't like to do just so I can make money? Or am I going to spend time learning something that I want to do, that I enjoy doing, that others can enjoy doing, and be okay if that doesn't feed me and I still have my day job?
Do you mind if I ask what you do?
Oh my gosh, it's a very difficult thing to explain. I cut paper.
So you work in some type of print shop?
Huh?
So you work in some type of print shop?
No. Well, what I work on and what I do is I work a water jet system that cuts a special type of paper that makes what we call energy conservation wheels. And it's a corrugated paper, much like cardboard is corrugated. And what it is it's a special type of paper. I cut the paper. They put it on a metal hub, and they roll it on there, put spokes in it, and put it in a machine. And anyway, the gist of it is the thing goes in front of like air conditioner units in big buildings, schools, things of that nature, and it cools the air off coming out of the air conditioning, so that
it doesn't catch fire.
Well, that, and also it cools off the building faster.
Yeah.
So that your AC doesn't have to kick out as much, and it saves you money. So
really, always when I'm drawing, yes, and you just use the litter box. God damn.
Oh, yeah. So I had a cousin that worked at the company, and I've been there for I just made 20 years back in April. And that's how I ended up finding the place. So yeah. And they have other divisions that do dehumidifiers and things of that nature. But that's what I do. And I'm the only one that cuts the paper there. So it's kind of job security in a way.
Yeah.
But that is there. And another reason why I really wouldn't want to leave, unless, of course, the art career just kicked out, which I don't see that happening anytime soon, is I am able to sketch and draw right there while I'm cutting paper.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that does help.
I've definitely had jobs like that where I call them warm body jobs, where it's literally they just need, like, there's no skill involved whatsoever. It's literally just a warm body sitting in a chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I like those jobs because it affords you time to, work on stuff that you would rather be doing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's I have to set the machine and I have to make sure that the way it cuts right and everything else like that. But after that, I'm talking, you have about 15, 20 minutes before it's done, and I have to change it out. So
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, when I worked at Verizon, I could kind of get away with that at some points, and definitely when I worked at WGBH, because I was one of like the only 3 people in the building when I was working. So, those are good times.
Yeah. Yeah. So my story is I used to be a graphic designer. I kind of figured out early on in my career that sitting in a cubicle just is not something I can do for multiple reasons. When I had an office job, I was really suffering from depression, really badly, to the point where I couldn't sleep at night. I wasn't eating. So I got out of doing that. I was doing freelance graphic design for a while, and even that was just kind of soul crushing. And
I can imagine, yeah.
and then during quarantine, I kind of said, I mean, I hate to say it, but the checks that I was getting from the government were actually bigger than some of the checks from when I was actually working.
I had some friends who had the same complaint.
I mean, it wasn't a complaint, but it made me realize, in the grand scheme of things, just getting. They teach you that a nice cubicle job making 30 grand is like the dream.
30 grand?
What's that?
30 grand.
30 grand, yes.
Damn. That's like a nightmare.
Well, yeah, that was another reason why I got out of graphic design, and that was, as much as I hated it, it also was not very financially rewarding. I wanted to be a comic book artist when I first got out of high school, and it was just everybody and his brother, like my teachers, my parents, random people I would meet on the street were just like, "This is a fool's dream. What are you thinking? Like, you can't make a living doing this," etc., etc. And I don't, when people come up to me and say, "Would you recommend becoming a comic book artist?" I don't know what to tell them, because I really think it, in retrospect, I probably should have just gone into being a comic book artist, because I kind of went the safer route, and I realized the safer route wasn't really.
Wasn't for you?
It wasn't for me, and it wasn't. Not only was it not, it wasn't as safe a route as I thought it was, especially because, like I said, graphic designers make no money whatsoever. If I'm gonna be broke anyways, I would rather be broke and doing something that I enjoy.
Broke can be happy.
Exactly. That's how I feel. Yeah. Well, you take in consideration, and the thing about it is there's not many people who have made a living at being a comic book artist, solely as a comic book artist.
Nope.
Many of them, especially in the 60s and everything, were doing ad work. So, and that's just how it is.
Jack Kirby made more money doing storyboard stuff than he ever made doing comic books.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I think a big thing is,
Len's here to correct me.
A big thing is
not yet. Go ahead. Sorry, Grant.
Sorry.
No, that's right. A big thing is that you can't predict the future. Now, when I was graduating from high school, if I had known that Kickstarter was going to become a thing, maybe I would have focused more on doing comic books, because I mean, I really think crowdsourcing is probably the biggest thing to hit independent comic book making, maybe in the last 20, maybe even longer than 20 years.
Yeah, no, crowdfunding is definitely a huge deal when it comes to, independent publishing and everything. So it's a game
Oh, yeah.
changer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you think about the fact, I mean, Robert Kirkman has said in multiple interviews, when Invincible hit, he was on the verge of losing his house.
Yep.
From financing different comic books.
Yep.
So, and that's something. I mean, there's lots of stuff that we don't have to worry about like, the previous generations. Like, for instance, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. I can't remember if it was Eastman or Laird who had a rich uncle
Eastman.
who paid for the printing of the first Ninja Turtles comic. He paid for the first printing of the Ninja Turtles, and he also paid for an advertisement in Comic Book Buyer's Guide.
Yep, and the Associated Press happened to pick up their press release, which is one of the other reasons why they got huge.
Well, the point I'm making is not everybody has a rich uncle.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. Sorry.
Yeah, so that, I mean, to me that's the beauty of Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever. It makes independent comic book creating doable, basically.
Oh, here we go.
There's Glenn.
Curry may have made more money doing storyboards, but he did very well doing comic pages. The issue with Jack is over copyright ownership, not page rate.
So yeah, so that's a good point. I mean, people talk about Jack Kirby. I mean, it sucks that he didn't become a billionaire, which, I mean, with the stuff that he created, he very easily could have become he should have become a billionaire. But I mean, I think sometimes we forget that, I mean, he did live pretty comfortably. I mean, he had oceanfront property in California, so
the man was also a machine. I mean, he drew like 6 pages a day. Now, Glenn can get me the actual figures. I'm positive on that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, he did a crap.
He has them at the ready.
Yep. Not meeting Jack Kirby is actually something that I feel sad about. So I never got to meet him at a con or anything like that. But I mean, I met Stan Lee.
Sometimes I think Glenn Fleming is like Beetlejuice. All you have to do is say Jack Kirby 3 times, and
Glenn shows up.
Him and Larry Higgins and Naomi. Say Naomi a few times, and Larry will show up.
That's true too.
So Jared brings something up. He says Stan Lee got pretty wealthy in what Jack gave us.
It's another
on one hand,
syndrome thing too, though.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Stan Lee was a wealthy guy. On the other hand, I mean, for what he created or what he helped create, I would say compared to like somebody like George Lucas or Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, Stan Lee was not a billionaire.
Stan Lee also lost all of his money a few times.
Oh, really?
Yep, he got scammed a few times out of his money. Like Stan Lee Presents or something was like basically a fraudulent company, effectively. So embezzlement and things. Yeah, he went in and out of money a few times.
The thing about Stan is he was a showman.
Yep.
He knew how to work the crowd, as it were.
Yeah, he knew how to talk.
Uh-huh. and he came off as being very genuine, and so that resonated with people.
Yep. I mean, you did the intro and all the cartoons and everything. It's like, this
Yeah.
is Stan Lee, True Believers. And
Right, he was the
he was the face of Marvel.
exactly.
Well, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't agree with Jared here, where he says Stan Lee got pretty wealthy on what Jack gave us. I don't agree that Jack was. I don't agree that Jack did everything.
No, Ditko did some too.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. My own, from a moral standpoint, really the only thing that I don't like about Stan Lee is I don't think he should have taken credit for writing all of those comic books.
No, he shouldn't.
He at least should have given. I mean, I feel like if all Stan Lee would have had to have done was put in the credits, co-written by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, and nobody would be bitching about Stan Lee at in this day and age. But because he didn't do that, that's why people. I don't think his ego would have allowed him to do that.
Well, they're not just. Well, the bitching about Stan Lee isn't just this day and age. They were bitching about it back then too.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, have you read the scathing? I don't know if a letter. I guess it was that Wally Wood did about Stan Lee.
Yeah, I know. Wally Wood. Wally Wood did a couple comic books with Stan Lee. Stan Lee thought that he was going to turn Wally Wood into, just another guy he could have underneath him. And Wally Wood did not respond well at all to the quote unquote Marvel way of working.
No, he wasn't into the Marvel method.
Well, he wasn't into the Marvel method because it involved the artist doing 90% of the work and
Yep.
not getting 90% of the credit or the pay.
Exactly.
But and the other thing that we were kind of talking about earlier. I mean, I think part of the reason why Jack Kirby was willing to put up with this is, I don't know about you guys, but I've had laissez-faire bosses in the past, and quite frankly, I mean, it's kind of nice because you have a little bit more creative freedom. So, I mean, I'm sure Jack Kirby kind of felt like it was kind of a deal with the devil in that, on one hand, he was getting to do the comic books that he wanted to do, but he wasn't getting as much credit for it as he should have.
Maybe you know this? Did he have as much freedom with his art during his Captain America run with Joe? I want to say Siegel, but that's not right.
Joe Simon.
Yeah, Joe Simon.
Yeah. Did he have did Joe really kind of like, panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, the stories?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
No idea.
I know that he did not have very much creative freedom when he left Marvel and went to DC.
Well, I mean, they drew over his Superman faces.
Yeah.
Which ticks me off to no end.
But you know what gets me about that is the fact that when he created Darkseid, and 2, the issue that Darkseid, the first appearance of Darkseid, what issue it was.
Yeah, it was in Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, it was Jimmy Olsen. That's just, that trips me out. And that was the book he wanted to do. They didn't just stick him on, Jimmy Olsen. That's the book he picked up and he wanted to do. They gave him, what do you want to do? And I think it was the least selling book at that time.
I mean, it really was. I mean, I don't know how to word it other than just saying he really was a talent for the ages, where just no matter what book you put him on, like you would think, like you said, Jimmy Olsen would be the slow period in his career. And here, while he was on Jimmy Olsen, he created Darkseid, a character who
Character.
decades later is still considered one of the preeminent villains in the DC universe. And
Yep, a very different character now than he was then. He was more of a sinister when he was first introduced and stuff, and it seemed like he actually had fears of things.
Yeah, well, that's usually what they end up doing. See, Glenn says Joe Simon was the businessman like Stanley. The difference is he did co-create with Jack.
Fair.
And Mike says Tom Scioli made a fascinating comic book on Stan Lee that pulled no punches.
yeah, I have to read that book. I'm going to be sitting next to Tom Scioli at a comic book convention this summer, actually in a couple weeks, and I haven't gotten around to buying that book because I want to get it straight from him. But yeah, Tom Scioli is I read his Jack Kirby biography, and I mean, obviously he's a Jack Kirby guy, so he's going to be very critical of Stan Lee.
Mm.
That's fair.
And Jared is saying we wouldn't have the Marvel we know without Stan, but Kirby and Ditko shouldn't have taken a back seat. Yeah, I agree with you, Jared. What I have an issue with is people who I agree with people who say that it's unfair that Stan Lee, at least in mainstream non-comic book culture, Stan Lee gets the lion's share of the credit. And I think people are right when they say that Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko were underrated. Now, what I have an issue with is when people start saying, "Oh, Stan Lee didn't do anything," because I don't think that that's fair.
No, if not writing, and I'm not saying regardless. To be completely honest, it's been done. It's been said and done, so it's not really whatever it is anymore. But to be fair, if not for the writing, just the fact that he was the face of Marvel for 30, 40 years, more than that. And I'm kind of counting from the 70s, Spider-Man and Friends and things like that.
Yeah.
But he was the face of Marvel. So you can't say he didn't do anything.
It amazes me that these guys didn't do more, like at the time, to make sure, like, hey, make sure I get credit, on this comic book.
Well, some of them were hiding the fact that they were working in comics. Even Stan himself, for that matter. Yeah. They were, they went,
And now it's like a mark of a mark of praise. But back then,
yeah. Clint Fleming says Stanley was mentioned only a few times in my book regarding my visits to Jack. C has the book in the film. That's right. I was going to say we do know someone else who has a Jack Kirby book.
That is true. I need to read that book. I also want to watch his DVD.
He's a good writer. He's a good writer.
Oh, I believe it. I've enjoyed just about everything that I've seen Glenn do. So.
Oh, Hatch is awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
So back to what we were saying about like these artists kind of hiding the fact that they were working in comic books. It's crazy. There's stories about people meeting Stan Lee at parties and stuff, and asking him, what do you do for a living? And he would just make something up.
Right. Yeah.
And
I work in children's literature.
Yeah. It's also my wife Angie and I did we did a a non-comic book event recently. It was the Greater Pittsburgh Book Fest, which means that most of the people there were book fans as opposed to comic book fans. And there was definitely, especially from talking to like older people, like I'm talking about people like in their late 60s, early 70s, maybe even into their 80s. You know, I would say to them, "Hey, would you like to check out this comic book?" And like they wouldn't even answer you. They would just start laughing, like, "No, I'm not going to read a comic book." And that's a very generational thing.
Got you.
There was a time. They come from a time where comic books were viewed as throwaway garbage for little kids, and it's funny. I mean, looking at that the Jack Kirby artwork, it's hard to believe that there was a time when people thought like that. But I mean, when you look at anything from that era, you have to remember that that's the attitude of people at that time. I don't know. It's crazy to me to think that there wasn't that these artists and writers didn't do more at the time to protect their copyrights or their ownership or make sure they got credit on this comic book. But then you have to remember that at the time, people thought, oh, comic books are just useless garbage for kids.
Right. It was just another job for them, really, at the end of the day.
I mean, a lot of them started as a stepping stone to try to get into getting into doing comic strips.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
What's his name? Oh my gosh, Gil
Kane.
Okay, thank you. Jeez, Gil Kane. I think that was one of his, and then he did get into comic strips.
It's weird. Why do you think comic strips were respected at a time when comic books were viewed as just garbage? Because to me, it doesn't seem like there's that big of a difference.
They were in the newspaper.
That's yeah. They were in a place of prestige.
And everybody read the newspaper.
New Yorker,
the Times.
The Times, yeah.
The Globe, the Boston Globe. That's not, it's a big one around here, and I know it's a big paper in a lot of other places. It's like that's where people got their, their whole thing is everybody got their news from the paper and the radio. So,
and there's money to be had there for the artists. So,
I mean,
you had Dick Tracy was doing good. You had
well, you look at Al Capp, you look at Milt Kniff, you look at all those great artists of the time, and they all lived well.
Yeah,
to say the least.
I think it came down to exactly what you're talking about as far as technology and everything is concerned. I think it came down to money.
Yep.
They weren't making much money doing comic books, but you can make a lot of money doing comic strips.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, and another guy who just blows my mind, like, I don't understand the psychology of why he wouldn't try to sue or do anything.
I'll be right back. There's somebody ringing my doorbell.
All right.
Is Bill Finger. I mean, I'm sorry?
No, what you were saying about Bill Finger?
I wonder, like, why wouldn't he try to sue? Why wouldn't he try to do anything to try to get his name out there? And I mean, he was somebody who was instrumental in the creation of $1 billion franchise,
and
he died penniless.
Right. But I'm gonna tell you my opinion on that comes into a lot of what is the stigma in comics is nobody wants to say anything bad. Because if you push the button, if you push the you push it and you lose, then you'll never work or get any type of work again. So it becomes very scary to go against the big forces, the publishers and things of that nature, to get what you deserve.
Well, that's what happened with Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Right. And
mean,
look what it took Neil Adams to do something about that.
Yep. Yeah. And what was it? When you're talking about Bill Finger, it's like I'll often say my favorite Batman film is Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, because it restored Finger's byline.
Yeah.
And you don't need to watch beyond the first 5 minutes. There you go. All right.
But the bad thing about it is now is
There's
that
a lot of bad things about that movie, but no.
I'm talking about as far as
I know.
My gosh, you're going to upset the Snyderverse people. Please don't do that. I don't want to. Not that I care. I just don't want to hear it. It's all.
They can bitch all they want. There's aspects of those movies I like. So.
Yeah. No, I didn't mind all of them, but then they started going, oh, Batman based off of characters from DC Comics, and just completely removed the created by.
Yeah, no, I don't like that.
Yeah, that they just got past it completely, which is a shame.
Huh. So I had a
But at
George
least
Moore
his
salesman show up. I was surprised by this. Thought it might have been Jehovah's Witnesses.
Glenn said, strips are syndicated throughout the world, which is why all the comic artists wanted a career producing them. Passive income. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yep, because as soon as you hit a certain number of papers, you're literally on the gravy train.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, true.
Just look at things like Garfield and stuff like that.
Yeah, he hasn't drawn Garfield in years. But he's still making money off of him.
Actually, he sold it all to Nickelodeon recently.
Did he really?
Yep.
Well, I mean, the man was like, I think he made like $800 million off of Garfield.
Yeah.
It's pretty freaking substantial how much money he made. So, I mean, that might be a larger number than it actually is. But even with Jim Davis, though, the thing about it is, with Garfield, he was wise in the way he marketed Garfield.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I don't know.
He got into drawing comics literally to make money. He's like, I'm going to make one about a cat because there's so many about dogs. What about the other people? And it's just a fat, lazy cat that sits around and doesn't like Mondays. So, yeah.
Well, have you ever seen, there's actually a strip. I can't remember the first strip.
Garfield?
No. Well, there was a strip but Garfield actually started off, and nobody likes to talk about it, but they do have, it has been leaked. Garfield started off as about John.
Yep.
It wasn't called Garfield. So I think he saw that Garfield had an appeal and just went, okay, well, we're going to pivot.
You know what's funny about that? See, is that's almost exactly how what Beowulf is turning into, because it started out being about Beowulf, and now Mooney, his cat was like the cat with magic powers, was kind of a secondary character. But of course, everybody's favorite part of the comic book was Mooney. So it's like now every time I do a scene, I'm trying to think, okay, is there any way I can involve Mooney more in this?
Well, you see, that's what happens. Internet. I keep telling Randy this too. I said, Randy, internet and cats, man. You need to. You have a book that has a cat. Put it out. Get it out there. But anyway, we're at the end. It is that time. So we need to go around the room and let everybody know where we can find you and everything. So, Grant, since this is your first time, you can get to go first.
Yeah. So I'm Grant Lankard. On everything. Sorry, my thing is out of frame. I'm Grant Lankard on all the social medias. Facebook, if you just look up Grant Lankard, here, I'll put my name in the chat so you can look me up. If you type that in anywhere, in particular Facebook or Instagram, I'm on Twitter, but I don't use it because it's the work of the devil.
Well, you're not wrong. But yeah.
And I know people say all social media is the devil, but
they're not wrong. But
Twitter
yeah.
in particular is awful. The other
media
thing
is now a necessary evil.
Twitter is the worst.
I'm putting up my my comment failed to post. I'll put it in the private chat if you don't mind.
Nita will put links in the there'll be links in the description where you can find it.
Yeah, there'll be links down the doobly-doo.
Yeah.
Down the below section.
If you go to
hand gestures you can't see. So.
If you go to my publisher's website, comicsburg.com, not only can you get a free copy of the first issue of Beowulf, you can also get sign up for my mailing list, which that's how I really like how people to get a hold of me or to find out what I'm doing is my my mailing list.
All right. Allison?
That's me. Hi. Well, I'm Allison McGlone, the Alley Cat. I draw here on Fridays with Arting with the Alley Cat. Next week I'll probably be drawing Cable, considering just continuing my X-Men kick. We got Jubilee here a bit. I'll probably finish her up sometime today or next week or, when I do. You can follow me on most of the social medias. I don't really use Twitter anymore because it's just stupid. And I forgot my password. But anyway. But I'm on the Instagrams, I'm on the Threads, I'm on the Blue Skies, I'm on the Facebook, I'm in the doobly-doo below. I'm pretty sure I got a Linktree link down there. So feel free, and I'm going to be doing, my Sword and Sorcery comic, Broken Shackles. I'll be having more updates on that soon. It was great seeing you too, Art. Love it when you come and hang out. Bye.
All right. Bye. All right, and as always, you can check me out at landingart.com. That's LANNING art.com. Right here on the Indie Comics Network, where I saw that, where you can also find other various shows that I seem to appear on, such as Art Style Kamikaze, where tonight we'll be looking again at the Etherington Brothers tutorials and drawing some kind of weird character, probably.
Hooray.
Yay. And as of course, also subscribe, share, like, hit the bell icon, let everybody know about Indie Comics Network and all the shows that we have over here, and check us out. Okay, keep it running after this. Who knows what's going to come up? And until next week, see you.
Make big comments about the Snyderverse.